I got something in the mail today. Well, actually 2 days ago, and then I stopped and actually kind of, read through it so I could have some thoughts about it. Because what arrived is one of the first things that I have backed from the indie sphere lately. Normally, I just buy stuff that's already out, but I couldn't stand to miss this because there is no second chance on Anvil issue 1. Oh, there's gonna be an issue 2. Don't worry about that. I'll have a link in the bottom. But this is a hell of a venture. It is a heck of a mountain that Iron Age Media is trying to climb because it is trying to build a product to bring together creators and present them of the Iron Age and present them to the consumers of the Iron Age together, curated, filled with ads and previews and you name it. Actually, there's a lot of cool stuff in here that I'll get to in a sec. This is a first impressions video, and I do have to say, this is enormous. Here's Isom for size. Okay. He went for full magazine size, but printed it like a graphic novel. Every single page is high quality, like almost cardstock, glossy finish, a high ink capacity, and all that, which is really good for full page advertisements. It's overkill, possibly, for what is this? Ghost of the Badlands. We got a 10-page comic preview going on in here by Razor Fist. I was actually hoping that I would be in full color. I think that would have been awesome, but it is what it is. This is a preview of someone else's product that is highlighted in that. It allows for comic printing. Most of the magazine, however, I want to say, is essentially an anthology. An anthology in size 18 font. On like 8.5 by 11 pages. I bring this up because I do think it is like actually unnecessarily large. And I'm probably driving some people up the wall right now, kind of opening this up with complaints about the first impressions and about relatively basic things. But the problem is that this book is expensive. Okay? The value proposition for giving this to consumers, not even just giving this to them, for selling this to them, is actually really wonky. Because the idea is that part of it is a curated anthology collection. Okay, people will do that on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and you name it. They self-publish that. That happens all the time. But those are typically done print on demand. And you can get the book through standard printing processes, usually for like 10, 15, maybe $20 if it's really big, or if they want to have a few images inserted into it. I think this came in with shipping and accidentally tipping Indiegogo, which, by the way, you don't have to tip Indiegogo. But I spent something like $45, if I remember correctly. Now, it's big as a graphic novel goes, because it's like 110 pages cover to cover. But it's mostly text. And the cost got passed on to the consumer, where it's 8.5 by 11 pages, 110 pages of heavy, glossy paper for text mostly. Now, let me try and flip through here to the advertisements, because realistically, that's what the consumer is buying. This is a big advertisement. The curated short stories are to sample writers that have been curated by the editor, which, by the way, I'll come back to anthologies and editors and my opinions on that and how great this can be and why I'm probably going to do it myself in the future and why upcoming writers should consider submitting to anthologies like this. You don't need glossy paper for writing. You want it for stuff like Ruthless here, which is a cool, what does he call this? A heavy metal audio comic. It's actually pretty dope. You get a full page spread where it is the advertisement, it's the imaging, it is the proper print and quality, and it's giving people a link to other concepts and so on, where they can go on and get more. There are quarter page and half page advertisements as well, all embedded with QR codes that link out of this physical document to the the online storefronts, the blogs, the web pages, the Amazon links, you name it. And that's cool because this should be creating this instantaneous community flashpoint of everyone more or less who's interested in the movement, in the subculture, in some of the creators, in Razorfist, in the featured story Fleet of Theseus by Daniel J. Snow. They just have a subscription that they forgot about, but everyone should be getting this at the same time, going through it for what's cool, and it gives people a reason, an impetus, and a timing to talk to each other. And that's actually something that I wish would be considered for future editions of this magazine. If you're listening, King Richard. First of all, QR codes are great. The consumer has to be very quickly connected to the creator that they like. I think that because this is a physical document, personally, you don't have to do this, man. I know you're listening, though. Personally, I think there needs to be some information and some status and some check-in point on these creators, like a snapshot in time, because the point of having a physical product instead of just a email newsletter everyone's going to forget about, that you can go back to this. And a lot of the content in here is stuff that you theoretically do want to go back to as a consumer. You know, a short story shouldn't go bad. When people get a subscription to this, they're going to end up with a stack of these, hopefully, because hopefully this grows and develops and prospers, and everyone's better off for it. And you're going to have a stack of these. I think this would be a lot cooler if you had these like time capsule notes about where people are, you know, where these creators are, and what's going on, what's being planned and tried, and stuff like that. So you can go back and see who came through, who was forgotten, who abandoned their promises, or who blew up out of nowhere. That is like the biggest reason I think to have a physical product, because I don't think Iron Age Media is going to go in and say surreptitiously change your data or something. But if this is a physical product instead of just a web page, there really needs to be something temporally locked about the magazine that matters, that people will want to look back on, to turn this into a sort of collector's thing to become fond over. Right now, you can kind of flip through it, and there's advertisements, which apparently are being cut from issue 2, because going back to the cost of this thing, it really is unreasonable to try and grow a magazine at that price point. And Iron Age Media is aware of that, and what was really damaging the selling point was the fact that shipping it couldn't use the cheapest media mail, because it has paid advertising, which is just a lovely artifact of how the U.S. postal system works, which is very unfortunate. Personally, I think if the font size was dropped and more creators got on board, because personally I was blown away that issue 1 had like 600 backers. Okay? I hope issue 2 is even bigger. Because the more people that back this, the more eyes that are going to be on it, which means if you as a creator have a product to sell in it, to advertise on it, it is more valuable. It's more eyes, more potential customers that can warrant a higher price. That's basically how magazines work. But if you compare this to a traditional magazine, this is way, way more content than advertisement. Like, I had to actually go looking as I was trying to do this to find a few advertisements here and there. Most of these illustrations you're seeing are like illustrations for the story, which really pushes this over more towards the anthology content driven, like, oh, you're buying this to read this rather than buying this to engage with consumers. And, well, if media rate on shipping through USPS means that can't do advertisements, then he really needs to lean more into that. But still, I guess he's going to have to go after the comics portions of this, try and get more than just like a 10-page spread, because otherwise charging for this paper is kind of ridiculous. Well, like I said, we're in the digital era right now, and you everything in here could just be posted on a website. Now, as you can see behind me, I like physical content. I like collecting. I like to have actual things. I'm starting a record collection, even though I stream all my music, because there's something nice about having physical things. But $45 for an advertisement that doesn't have many advertisements is a little weird. All right, so you drop the price in half, and you're paying $20 for an anthology with. You know what? I actually think it's really cool that there is a solo RPG, choose your own adventure in here. There is, the comic I keep bringing up because it's Razor Fist feature. There are editorials, notes from the editors, and reviews of books, and content like that in here. The question is just going to come down to economics. I do think that it is good, fundamentally, that there is going to be this, I believe, biannual magazine release where everyone's going to get a crack at it at the same time. They're going to be able to talk about what stories they liked, what authors they got exposed to, who has cool ads. Oh, I saw this ad. I'm going to go check out The Wizard's Stone by, that's Herman P. Hunter, I want to say. Seeing too many names, unfortunately. Whatever. And it should get people talking across communities and meeting each other and discovering other creators. And I think that's great if it can be pulled off. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that this is a first impression that I didn't read any of the short stories at this point. Like I said, I've only had it and that's on purpose. For a discussion on the magazine, it's really not my spot to say whether the stories in it are any good. It would be weird for me to say, oh, look at these low quality advertisements that were in it or something. Like, Rob Rhymes' Barbarians of the Storms. Like, he's just copy pasting his covers and clip art, which I hope you hear the sarcasm there, Rob. Specifically about the anthology, that's a curated list from what was submitted. And if I were to go in and start critiquing these short stories one by one, first of all, a lot of these guys I think are up-and-coming authors that I'm not even sure they all have books for sale right now. Okay. But the thing is, that would be like backseating the chief editor. And in this case, chief editor is, if you've clicked on the video and stayed this long, I'm sure you know, is Daniel P. Riley of Whimsyland Writing Services, Coaching. I don't know what his title is. But he's the senior editor. He's the one that went in and said, these are the cream of the crop. These are going to fit the tone that we're trying to hit. They fill the desires of what we put a call out there for the best. I am requesting these prose cleanups, and they're meeting his standard. And that's just how magazines and anthologies work. That's how competitions work. That's why if you are a writer who has ever looked into how do I win a competition, the first thing that you're going to be suggested to do is buy previous winning volumes and look for what the judge is looking for. It is not ever going to be what you think is the best story. And if you want to win, you write to the judge. You write to the editor's preferences. You write what the magazine is trying to publish. And in this case, there's kind of this weird question of, should the Iron Age be gatekeeping? A lot of people say, no, it's an independent movement. And then other people will scream, gatekeep, gatekeep, gatekeep. Anything not gatekept will be intrinsically destroyed from the inside out, like a burning Nurgle rot infestation. So, is it gatekeeping, or is it just the nature of the beast? I don't think that Mr. Riley is going to do anything called gatekeeping, but I think that you're intrinsically going to be seeing his influence in the collection. That's how it works. That is something that people need to realize, is that the editor is part of the product. Such as, like, if I ever do an anthology, which I'm planning to do eventually, when I grow and get bigger and do bigger projects. I've submitted other things like sidearms and sorcery, but the editor is part of the process. And that is why, not only am I going to have the link to Anvil magazine, where you can get the Kickstarter, or not the Kickstarter, the Indiegogo link for Volume 2, but check out Daniel P. Riley's book. Read it, see what he's about. I haven't read it yet. I can't tell if it's any good or bad, unfortunately, but he writes Yusidai too. It sounds cool. It's kind of anime superhero stuff is what the impression I've always gotten about it. It just hasn't been it hasn't made it to the top of my priorities list. I'm sure you'll see is completely chaotic if you followed my channel. So overall, this is facing a lot of economic issues that need to get resolved, but Iron Age Magazine, Iron Age Media, the guys behind it, I know for a fact, are working their butts off to come to a working solution. And what's important to realize is that this magazine is, in fact, nothing without creators. Without you, nebulous person listening to this, who may or may not have submitted to this. This is a product of independent creators, compiled and presented for consumption, for comparison, for sharing among the community. Not sharing the magazine, but sharing your passions and interests and learning about other people out there in a physical form, which can be collected, which can be shown off, which comes with posters that are currently out of frame and all that. This was Volume 1. Volume 2 is up for crowdfunding right now. Let's see how it progresses. I think that right now, the pages in this Volume 1, really, the cost of the paper probably has to come down. And probably the font size should be reduced to fit in. Either get it all in on less pages, which would bring the price down, or make room for more advertisements, which... as more people find out that this magazine is reaching hundreds and hundreds of people, more people are going to be interested. More people are going to want to pile on. And maybe there is a tip over point where there will be enough people willing to put down real money that it justifies, that it will offset the cost of shipping. That's how it traditionally works with magazines. But we aren't big business. No one really wants to drop like $500 to advertise in a magazine that goes to 500 people. So, tell your friends. Let's spread this out. The prices, I've been told firsthand that the price is coming down because they are doing alterations to advertisements. I think they're going on... I actually don't know. They're just eliminating advertisements as far as I'm aware. And don't be like me. Don't tip Indiegogo. Put in a custom tip of 0 because they're just scamming because they do skim off the top. If they get it on a subscription model, though, Indiegogo is cut out of the loop, and that brings the price down again, makes it much more palatable. More people accept it. It's the buy-sell curve, supply and demand, and all that basic economic stuff. Anvil magazine, links in the description. Drop a like. Let me know below what you think the best short story is, and I might reach out and get the all clear to chat with that author specifically, rather than just like plucking them out and saying, ooh, this one gets scrutiny. Let me know which the best short story is, in your opinion, in the comments below. And until then, subscribe.